Everything is falling apart for BioWare. They just laid off a bunch of people, basically the whole entire writing team behind Dragon Age the Veilguard. We know that some developers are being moved over to the next Mass Effect, and of course, the shills are now melting down because they've realized that BioWare really never cared about them and were only trying to manipulate them to make a few extra bucks. But now the media is freaking out, saying, I'm haunted by the decline and the fall of Dragon Age, and this game was so good and it deserved more of a chance, while we now know that BioWare is down to less than 100 employees. But before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, we know that the media is constantly trying to find the next game to shill for. They constantly love to try to make games popular that push the narratives they like, but it never really works out for them because they are so irrelevant now. Kotaku gets like 2 million clicks a month, if that, from what we understand, when they used to get like 20 to 30, which is crazy. And even PCGamer and The Gamer are now struggling because these companies need to shill for the BioWares and the EAs and games like Veilguard so they can continue to have early access to games, so they can continue to get preview material and exclusive interviews, because that is literally the only way at this point that they are surviving. But now PCGamer has put out this massive whining piece saying, I'm haunted by the decline and fall of Dragon Age and can't help but wonder how it came to this. Lazy activist developers. Congratulations, I just summed up this entire article, or what should be in this article, because that is the truth. We are talking about a company like BioWare, that used to have hundreds upon hundreds of employees, people who were truly talented and very passionate about this industry and the products that they were working on. But as the years have gone on, those individuals have left, they've gone to work at other studios, or they've been fired, and they've been pushed out of the way to make room for new, diverse, inclusive teams. And I'm all for diversity and inclusivity when it's done naturally, when it's done because somebody is being hired because they are the best of the best. But unfortunately, that's just not the norm anymore. There are people who are talented who might happen to be white, straight men. They're being pushed out of the industry to make way for women or people of color or minorities or people with all of these wacky sexual orientations, because they want to check off more boxes on a checklist. They think that will look good to investors, and really all they're doing is killing their company and killing their project. So that's how it came down to this situation. But they say, as news came in that Dragon Age the Veilguard missed its sales projections by nearly 50%, with publisher EA saying that it underperformed our expectations, I wasn't the only one on the PCGamer team who suddenly felt we may have seen the last entry in a once legendary fantasy RPG series. Yes, I do not think that we are ever going to get another Dragon Age game, or it's going to be a very, very, very long time before we do, because we know that a lot of these people have been shifted to Mass Effect. We know that that is really their main focus, and I think that that is kind of their last effort to turn BioWare around. If the next Mass Effect title releases and it is a failure, I think BioWare is done. And that is sad to say, because yes, they were once a legendary studio with legendary series like Dragon Age, but you can only put so much faith into them for so long, and it's clear that they just do not give a fuck about respecting our wishes and giving gamers a high quality experience. Now, if months ago the mainstream media wasn't going out of their way and shilling for Veilguard and giving it 10 out of 10s, and they were being honest saying this is not the best thing this team could have come up with, maybe I could sit here and feel a little bit of compassion for them. Like, yeah, I mean, it was one of their favorite series ever. They did love it. They're disappointed. But you guys are the ones who gave it 10 out of 10s. You guys were the ones who were calling us racists and sexists and homophobes for criticizing these developers in the shoddy job they did. It says, though, then as yesterday brought the news that BioWare was restructuring purely around Mass Effect 5, with staff from all other projects redistributed or let go, and that the Veilguard had almost certainly received its last ever update with no DLCs planned, it felt like the final nail in the Dragon Age series coffin. And sure, there are people out there who are going to be sad to hear this, but at the end of the day, do you really want them to make another game that could turn out to be like the Veilguard? No, I would rather them just leave it alone and never work with it again instead of them fucking it up. It's like with the Knights of the Old Republic remake. I love Knights of the Old Republic. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I would love for them to come out with that remake, but I have no faith. They had people like Sam Maggs working on that game not even that long ago. Why would I sit here and put faith in them to do that? So I'm just like, oh, maybe we'll never get the remake, because it wouldn't break my heart if we didn't. I'd be worried about the Veilguard in the run-up to its launch, writing that the thing that scared me most about its impending release was it could very well be a deflating send-off for a series that started with such immense promise, and that in my mind has never fully had the promise brought to fruition. The promise that it might have been a series that could have been an impactful and cemented in PC gaming culture and legends as Baldur's Gate has been, but that certainly was not the case. And they also go on to talk about how this is so heartbreaking because so many talented employees are being let go, which is just so funny, because if these people were talented, they would still have jobs. It's like, look at the individuals like Courtney Woods, right, who are going to work at Sucker Punch and working on Ghost of Yotei. They, yes, had worked on the first amazing Mass Effect games, the Mass Effect trilogy that everybody loved, and they had worked on games like Inquisition, and sure, they deserve some credit for that, but just because they were able to do their jobs 10, 15, 20 years ago does not mean they could do their jobs now. And it's not heartbreaking to see them be let go after they created a pile of trash, after they helped ruin a beloved franchise. So sure, you could say, oh, maybe it was just this one game that was a massive problem for them. Maybe the team didn't really, connect with each other and they didn't work well together. But it should not matter, because there was nothing in this game that was truly amazing. It's not like some of the writing, like with some of the characters, was amazing, or the environments were totally amazing, or the variety of abilities was amazing. There's nothing that you can give credit to with this game. But we do know that, yes, BioWare is now down to less than 100 employees after the Mass Effect layoffs decimate the Dragon Age, the Veilguard studio. And we see some of these people going over to Sucker Punch. We know Corinne Bush is now allegedly going to be working on a Dungeons and Dragons game, which is not particularly shocking given Wizards of the Coast is in such a state of fucking disaster. They have been woke for a lot of years. Actually, funny enough, Knights of the Old Republic remake had Sam Maggs on it, and she went to work on Dungeons and Dragons. So there's really no hope for WotC. I'd rather have all of these activists working at this one company and out of the way of these other potentially amazing games, but the previously reported BioWare layoffs have gutted the once legendary RPG studio, leaving it with fewer than 100 employees, according to a new report from Bloomberg. And we're talking about a studio that, yes, used to have hundreds upon hundreds of developers, who now has to have less than 100. And sure, maybe they are finally ready to hunker down and create the next Mass Effect game, and maybe it will be amazing, but I am not going to sit here and blindly support them. I am not going to sit here and put my blind faith into this next Mass Effect game, and I do genuinely believe that if it comes out and it's terrible, it is going to be the end of BioWare just in totality at all whatsoever. And yeah, I do understand that this journo felt a little bit of disappointment that this game series is seemingly over and that BioWare is in such a state of disaster, but if it wasn't for the mainstream media constantly being yes men and telling these developers to continue to push the limits when it comes to things like diversity and inclusivity and focusing on those elements versus amazing storytelling or really awesome, unique gameplay, then we wouldn't be in this situation. But it is what it is. The companies in the gaming industry listened to these sensitive snowflakes on social media, these journo activist hacks, and well, now that their favorite franchises are being ruined, I'm not going to sit here and shed a tear for them. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.